But real quick before we get started, I found something interesting online and I wanted to share it with you.
Will we get flagged for it again?
Um, it's a possibility. I mean, I'm not going to show anything. It's all on my phone. That's why I'm not going to show it. But
Okay.
but it's pretty cool. It happened a few months ago, back in March of this year, 2021. Um, it was a trending video of an Indian father from India who cut off and carried his daughter's head after she went to go and see her boyfriend.
How did that make it on the internet?
Anything like that can make it on the internet now. So the father, Sharvish Kumar, is the father of four who decapitated his 17-year-old daughter and carried her head through the streets because he did not approve of her boyfriend.
Okay, well, all right. Let me
I
see
just,
it, I guess.
I just thought that was in. No, it just shows. I mean,
Oh, I don't
there's
want
a
to. Okay, yeah. There's no picture of him
no.
walking down the. Oh,
Oh no,
okay.
there's a picture of him holding a head, but it's blurred out.
Oh, that's good because that would make me really pissed off because you can't see good porn anymore for free,
No,
and they're gonna
no.
show some shit like that. That'd really make me angry.
There's so many fucking bukakis, but we can't even see
Yeah,
this.
I don't want to see that shit no more. Leave the pigtail white lady alone.
No, I found that I was because now Google with their stupid algorithm, no matter how many times you search
That's it. You're
death,
flagged.
death and murder and this is one of the first things that popped up. Now, again, it's old, but I just thought I just want to share that because I thought that was interesting. I just came back from a birthday, uh,
Yeah,
up
pretty
north,
exciting one.
up north here in Truckee. That was fun. That was honestly a lot of fun. That was the most fun we had in a long time.
Well, everybody's old enough now. Hell, you got to realize something. Everybody in them pictures, you guys were kids when you guys fart. Well, you, James, and Serge, but everybody else is after. But you guys were kids when we went out there. Hell, I got them drunk at 6 years old.
Yeah, I
Please
know.
don't hold that against me. But they wanted a beer, and I was like, yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
So there you
Here,
have it.
here's a case of MGD.
No, it was Bud Light.
Was it Bud Light? Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
You
it
just
was a
gave them
six
water
pack
and
of
they were
Bud
drunk.
Light. They were six or
Yeah, that's true.
eight or seven, maybe 10. I don't know what
No,
sounds better, so I don't get in trouble. They were 13.
it's
I don't know how old you guys were, to be
no. I
honest with you.
actually I was 6. Serge is a few years older than I am, so
Is
yeah,
James older than you?
they're no. Him and James are the same age. They're both
Okay,
about
so
to be
they were
35,
probably
so
in there.
they're probably 11 or 12, almost
Yeah,
13.
see,
Just
that's
say 13. Just say
I feel
13.
better now. Yeah, him, Raymond, and James were in their 13ish years.
Yeah, they had double digits, so they're
Yeah,
fine. Those brain
yeah.
cells are still working, kind
So it's not all my fault.
of. Please go check out our flow page. Go check out our flow page. That's over at flow.page/BTWBJ. You'll find all of our links there. And actually, I got some feedback on some shirts. Your cousin in St. Louis is going to be sending us some samples because I
Okay.
never knew she made stuff, and apparently she makes a lot of things. So we're going to be getting some sample shirts soon. If we like them, we're going to put it out to the people. And you can also buy us a coffee there. And we have a couple of shout outs that we want to give out right now. Thank you, hashtag history, Leah and Rachel
Thank you.
of hashtag history podcast. Thank you so much for that. Shout out to Amanda and Cassidy of Drinking the Kool-Aid podcast. Thank you, ladies, for buying us some beers for that. Thank you very much.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
The homies right there.
Mm-hmm.
And big shout out to Judge Joe Brown.
Joe Brown.
Joe Brown. He bought us 2 beers. Very cool guy. I met him back in 2016. Very nice guy.
Are you serious?
No, but
Oh,
Judge Brown is a guy that I actually met.
all right.
So thank you, Joe. Appreciate the beers, bro. And I agree with you. Epstein did not kill himself.
No, not a chance.
No,
Not a
no,
freaking chance.
no. With that being said, you ready for the episode?
I am.
All right, here we
I'm ready to
go.
listen.
Here we go. This is going to
Take
be
it away.
episode 55. Very interesting, part 2.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Bull Talk with BJ podcast.
Guess what, motherfucker?
Some of the information you are about to hear, some may find disturbing. I don't know who gave them this or who gave them the clearance. On the crotch.
Oh my
Right
lord.
there.
Can we Google that?
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then I fucking stumbled down a dark hole and I love it.
Great keg parties. You know, if I'm going to believe anybody's bullshit, I'm going to believe mine.
It sounds not politically correct, but
You two motherfuckers need Jesus.
first on our list, there's only 2 stories this time. There's not 3, 2. But they both involve women and they both happened back in the day. So the first one happened on February 10th, 1996. This was over at Cornell Middle School in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. 14-year-old Tanya Koch. Nope. Wrong
Talk
name.
about free porn.
Tanya
It's
Koch.
a family show, son.
I know. Tanya Koch, Kach. 14-year-old Tanya Koch up and disappeared.
Up and disappeared. Where did that come from? How do you up and disappear?
I don't know. You know, it's
How do you hurry up and wait?
up?
Really? I mean, what is the other one? Oh, you explained to me over the weekend blowing smoke up your ass what it really meant.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. That was a really good one.
But that's another one that just anyway, let's not get distracted. We're on a time. We're on a time limit, but go ahead.
Tanya was your average teenager. She was about blonde. She had big ocean blue eyes, wore a scrunchie in her hair, tied up in a ponytail. She had the real old, not real old, but the older 90s hair that was real kind of puffy. It was kind of like left over from the 80s.
She was a Aquanet baby.
Yes, that's what it was. Aquanet.
Aquanet.
Yes. 6 months prior to her disappearance, Tanya met a new friend. Her new friend was hired as a security guard at her school. Keep in mind, this is a middle school. She's 14 years old. And Thomas Hose is a 28-year-old security guard working at her school.
Okay, hold on. Time out, dude. Family show. First you started talking about cock, now hoses. What are you going to talk about next?
It gets good, and not in a good way. Thomas was known to everybody, staff included, as a very, quote, likable guy. He was very friendly, very talkative, very funny. He was just an all-around kind dude. Nothing sexual at all in the beginning. He would always say hi to all of the students. He would always say hi to Tanya specifically. He would ask, "How are you?" etc. A few months in, at times, he would tell Tanya's teachers that the principal would need to speak with her. Before long, the pair then became best friends, Thomas and Tanya. Many times, mind you, keep in mind, he's a security guard, and he's coming into certain classrooms and telling her, "Hey, the Principal Smith needs to see Tanya. So can you just excuse her for this class?" And then he would take her out and just sit and talk with her. Like, no one caught on to this. And again, granted, this did happen back in the 90s. I know people were very naive in the 90s and even the 80s. But you kind of just all the time,
took it for granted. Well, they were taking her kindness for being a weakness, is what you're trying to say?
I mean, well, yeah, maybe, or just that the teachers just didn't pay attention. I don't understand.
No, that is true. I can honestly say now there's obviously a difference between your and mine ages, but we weren't very,
Watched over.
no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Now, many times, going back to the story, many times Tanya would speak to Thomas about life issues. One of those issues was living at home with strict parents. Now, again, strict parents, this is kind of has been told several times over in several stories that I've heard. A lot of strict parents kind of, without knowing, cause certain issues in a teenager's life. Then again,
Sure.
so do lenient parents. So there's no happy fucking medium. And I'm gonna be a father of another baby. This will be my second child, and I don't know what the fuck to do other than break someone's skull open. Probably, I don't know.
Mm. Good
Ta-
luck.
yeah, thank you. Tanya's parents made sure that she was at the top of her class no matter what. So they were strict parents. She was on honor roll. She was a teacher's aide. She helped out after school. They were very strict in making sure she had a very good education. During this conversation of having life issues and having strict parents at home, Thomas asked Tanya if she wanted to move in with him just for a little bit, just to get away from the strict parents.
Not suspicious at all, right?
And without hesitation, she was like, I already got my fucking bags packed, dude. Let's go. And literally within that same period, they went and lived at his house. This was a decision, of course, that she would then regret for fucking ever.
But her parents weren't okay with it, right? It wasn't like she was
They didn't know.
emancipated and come. Oh,
They didn't know.
okay. Maybe I should have. Maybe you said that and I didn't hear it.
Yeah, no. All this happened on February 10th, on all within that one day. And she responded to Thomas, and he was like, "Listen, you've been telling me that there's issues at home. Come stay with me for a bit." She was like, "All right, cool, let's go." So the next day, this is now the 11th of February. After talking with Tom, Tanya ran away from home. And on the first day of living with Tom, Tanya knew something was off. And what may that be? I don't know. The fact that he was living with both of his elderly parents and his son. His son is probably the same age as Tanya, if not a little bit younger.
Okay, did they know each other?
The son
No
and Tanya?
speculation. Yeah.
No. But for the next decade, Tanya lived with Thomas. Mind you, that's a lot of a little bit. Remember how he said, "Come stay with me for just a little bit." She ended up staying with him for a decade, up until 2006.
Okay, a decade's 10 years.
Yeah, 1996.
And her parents didn't know?
Oh, they knew. They tried to find her.
Eventually they found out.
Eventually. Now
Okay.
she lived in the second story of his home in a locked bedroom. She couldn't leave to get food or even use the restroom. Jumping ahead, 4 years later, in 2000, Tom's parents and his son had still no idea that Tanya was even living in the house. She's already been there 4 years now, and no one had a clue that she was living there. Tom would tell them, do not go into the second story bedroom because that's my room. It's my space and I don't want anybody in there. And he would lock the door.
Was this girl not making any noise?
No.
Did he lock her up?
Not physically, like with chains or anything like that, but he locked her in the room. She couldn't leave. She couldn't do any of that. Even go out of the room to use the bathroom. She couldn't do that. And mind you, the bathroom was right across the room, right across the hallway from her room. Totally fucked up. Can you imagine that scenario?
No, I'm trying to think.
She literally had a bucket to pee, little graphic, to pee and shit in.
But she made no noise. This dude totally mind controlled the shit out of her and
Had to,
manipulated
yeah.
everything.
And by now he's 38 years old. He was 28 at the time. Can you imagine the conversation that she had with him? I know you don't want me to leave, but I really got to use the bathroom right now. And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I got you." Comes back with a bucket and fucking toilet paper. She's like, what am I supposed to do with this? He's like, "Oh, you're supposed to poo in that." What the fuck am I supposed to do with it after? Just chuck it out the fucking window.
Was she?
There's no confirmed, but I would assume so, unless there's a whole room smelling like doo doo.
Isn't that part of the whole shit face thing? That's where shit face came from.
Yeah. In Scotland, actually, they used to chuck buckets of poo, and if you were
get
drunk,
hit in the face.
Yeah. So there you go, shitheads, shit faces.
There you go.
After living with arguably the coolest security guard ever, Thomas had a grand idea of not only introducing Tanya to his family as his girlfriend, but then changing her name completely. So now 4 years later, and he's like, hey, dad, mom, Timmy, this is Nikki. She's going to be living with us, and don't go upstairs still, because that's where she's going to be staying. No, and I don't want anybody bothering her. So thanks, guys, and just goes right back upstairs. 4 years into this whole living situation, and he's finally like, "I'm going to introduce you to my parents. You really need to actually meet them."
But at that time, she was of legal age, so he couldn't get in trouble. But she still was a runaway.
No, she wasn't. Oh, yes, she was. Yeah, she was 18. Yeah. You're right. But it still doesn't get any better from there, because eventually she became his sex slave. Now, again, from what I read, she wasn't physically tied up or anything like that. But for the next 6 years after this, again, 2006, Thomas Hose would repeatedly rape and sexually assault Tanya. It wasn't until 2005 when Thomas began allowing Tanya, aka Nikki, to now go out in public under one condition, that she was with him and under his supervision. Now, you may ask, well, how the fuck was she not recognized?
Well, how the fuck was she not recognized?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Dad.
Hey, you're welcome.
She wasn't recognized because Nikki, again, with her loving boyfriend, quote unquote, according to some reports, Tom would frequently meet with a hairstylist, Judith Sokol. Sokol consistently cut, trimmed, and dyed Nikki's hair to the point where she was unrecognizable. And now that she's older and probably with stress, she gets a little wrinkles. She gets brown hair now, cut short. Like I said, like you said, she was the Aquanet baby, so her hair was out to here. And now she's not looking like that. She has short hair. Thomas, like most overzealous D-bags, began taking Nikki everywhere. Very narcissistic kind of guy, taking her to the movies, taking her to malls, taking her to grocery stores, hell, even Walmart, where they literally have flyers. I know you've seen them, flyers upon flyers of missing people. Have you seen this person? And it says Tanya Kak, and no one even recognized her. She's still in the same town. It's not like she got kidnapped and was taken to fucking, I don't know, Saudi Arabia or something like that. No, she was in the same town. Not even the next county over or next state over. She's in the same freaking town. Thomas and Nikki would frequently go to a deli called JJ's Deli Market in McKeesport. The couple became friendly with the deli owner, Joe Saparcio. And for 7 months, while Thomas shopped, Nikki would go to the back of the store and play arcade games. That's all they were known for. He would go shop, she would go play video games, and Joe was just like, oh, look at this cute couple coming in. Good old older guy with this younger gal. So sweet. So sweet.
Lucky son of a bitch.
March, now we're at the 10-year mark, the decade later, March 2006. 10 years later, 10 years, she has been with Thomas, 10 years, living in his house in a not secret room, but locked in a room for a secret of 4 years. Family now knows her. His family now knows her as Nikki, and the couple made another return to the deli as normal, and Nikki asked for some cash to go play the video games. Thomas gave her a couple dollars. Nikki went up to the register and asked for some change. Well,
Okay.
according to Joe, the shop owner, she, quote, looked a little disheveled and extremely nervous to the point where she was shaking, end quote. It was at this point that Nikki then tells Joe, Nikki isn't my real name. I'm Tanya Cat. Confused with what Nikki was telling him, she told Joe to go search the name Tanya Cat on Google. And sure enough, Nikki was confirmed to be Tanya.
Okay, so at this, I mean, he never even put two and two together at all.
No,
Being a resident of the same county, hell, same neighborhood.
not a clue. No one had
See,
a clue.
that's what's scary, man. But anyway, go ahead. I'm listening.
Then on an interview with Entertainment Tonight, ET, she said multiple quotes. First one being, I lost my virginity to him. And all of those years, he kept saying that he trained me. He trained me and that he owned me because I lost my virginity to him, end quote. Second quote is, he just kind of touched me in a way and said, I've always wanted to be alone with you. And that for the first time, and I knew that from the first time that we kissed. The first time that they kissed was also the same day that he told her, you should come and live with me. The last quote, one of the other memorable quotes from the interview. At first, I would say, I want to leave. I miss my family. I want to go home. He would then do what every kidnapper does and threaten the family, her family, and threaten to kill them. So again, Thomas was a pretty cool guy.
Sounds like a winner to me.
Right? It wasn't until 2010 that Thomas was charged for kidnapping, and he was sent to prison for 20 years to life. He tried making an appeal recently to get it reduced.
But reduced, I mean, okay. I mean, this is why I don't like stories. I mean, unfortunately, shit like this happens all the freaking time. If you watch crime TV, which is on repeat on multiple channels, you hear these type of stories at least twice a day. What is the psychological power that maybe there is an answer? What is the power does somebody have over someone to convince them to keep their mouth shut for 10 years? Why?
Think about it. He's literally telling her, I will kill your family. She wants to go home. Even though she has strict parents, she wants to go home and see her family. He's telling her, if you say, I'm sure it's not as gentle as I'm going to put it, but if you tell anybody that you're living here, I will go kill your family. I will go hurt them. And so I'm sure she's over there trying to protect her family as much as she can, and also trying to please him because she didn't realize that he was a fucking nut job.
Well, I mean, I get that, but she was 13. She was old enough to understand that she can say something. You can't tell me a 13-year-old nowadays in 2021 is not going to run their fucking mouth.
Nowadays, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, what is the difference?
You're
old enough to understand something. You're old enough to call. I don't know. Dude, these type of stories,
they irritate you?
Oh, dude, they just make me, I don't know how to explain it. Are we that ignorant as people?
I don't know.
How did he get arrested? From that guy, from her telling the shop owner?
Yes. The shop owner looked online, looked at the national I can't remember exactly the name of it, but it was the abduction website.
Exploited and abducted kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So he searched up that name, Tanya Cack. She popped up, and he compared the pictures, called 911. Police came immediately because they've been trying to find her for 10 years. The case went cold. Nobody knew. They just assumed that she was, I'm putting my words into this part, but they assumed that she was dead. I would assume that she was dead. Most cases they would assume after, I think, even 5 years that the person had died. So after this, he got arrested. He got sentenced. He tried to appeal it, and the judge pretty much told him, "Fuck you."
And does she have a big influence on him not coming out? Is she speaking on her behalf? Does she
Oh
have
yeah,
a
yeah,
lawyer? I
no,
mean,
yeah. She's
how is
been
she in general?
she's had a few. I've saw a few interviews, not too many. I literally saw maybe two or three, but she's even written a book about this whole thing. She's been on several interviews. They even actually made a movie. It is called Captive: The Sex Slave Girl. She even has a book called Memoir of a Milk Carton Kid: The Tanya Nicole Cack Story.
So the milk carton didn't even help her?
No, milk carton didn't even help. But now let's get into
Mm.
the second story of
All right.
this
All right.
episode.
Go ahead.
This is Nettie Nance. Now, before we get started with her, infant abductions from 1983 to 2000. There were over 300 infants that have been taken from hospitals/homes. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not that much between 20 some odd years.
But that is a nation, or is that just
As
a
an
certain country?
as a nation of the U.S.
And what year?
It from 83 to 2010, over 300.
Oh,
That's just what they were able to
people
see.
try.
They try,
People try.
absolutely. Now, 9 out of 10 times, out of 10 people, 9 of them are women. There is that one random case that it is a man. It doesn't happen that often. For typically one of two reasons. Either they want a child but cannot have one, or they want a man around to provide them with a child. Now, this story falls into both of these reasons. On July 15th, 1987, baby Carolina White was born. She was born to parents Joy White, 16 at the time, and boyfriend Carl Tyson, who was 22. Once able to come home, Joy returned back to Harlem, which is where the hospital was that she was at, on August 4th of that same year, 87. Just a few weeks after Carolina was born, she had a fever of over 105.1. Doctors were able to determine that the baby had swallowed some type of fluid during birth, and she had had an infection for the last couple of weeks. At about 12:15 a.m. that same day, on August 4th, doctors told Joy that the baby would have to stay for a few nights. Now, 16-year-old girl obviously began crying and really felt shitty because she thought maybe she did something wrong.
Well, scared. Hell
Of course,
yeah.
especially this sounds bad, but she's a child giving birth to a child. She's never
Even adults giving birth to children, even older women. I mean, it is a scary scenario.
Absolutely.
When you're helpless, it's very scary.
Now, shortly after, a nurse approached her to come and calm her down, her being Joy. The nurse was in full garb at the time, which was the white head bonnet looking thing. She had on the white scrubs, the dress, and the whole nine. According to Joy, the nurse kept saying everything's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. The doctors here are amazing. Your baby is in good hands. Trust me, the baby will be fine. After a few minutes of talking to this really cool, nice nurse, she was able to wipe the tears away. She kissed her daughter goodbye. And from speaking with the nurse, she said thank you, gave her a hug, and said goodbye. Shortly after, returning home, this is now about 2 to 3 hours later, NYPD detectives came knocking on the door. Joy's mother fell to her knees thinking that baby Carolina had possibly died. Something much worse occurred. Baby Carolina was in fact abducted from the hospital. Very different from the hospitals that we have now. Obviously, a lot of the times they were very open places. They were anyone could just come in, come out. Not very much like it is now. And these are one of the reasons why we have certain security systems that we have at certain hospitals.
Doors are locked now.
Oh yeah, they are
And a
not
security guard. Yeah.
not only locked, they are electronically locked, where you need to either have a badge or a key to get out of the actual unit.
Yeah. It only takes one button to shut the whole area down, too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know.
Upon the return to the hospital, had saw multiple police units, dogs, uh, and even more police activity trying to find the baby. Police then had a meeting with several hospital staff members, about who saw the baby last. It was here where Joy remembered a nurse. She didn't get her name at the time, but she remembered what she looked like. Joy looked around during this whole meeting and didn't see this nurse at all. Now, this is a situation like this, it's all hands on deck. If something like this were to happen at a hospital, every person in that hospital, or at least within that unit, will be there. They need to be
Sure.
accounted for.
Sure.
Police are going to do their own little investigation. Was Jim there? Was Jimmy there? Was Tom, Dick, and Harry there? No. Okay. Well, where's Tom, Dick, and Harry? And where's Big Jim, whatever.
Well, don't forget, their surveillance systems are much more
That too.
improved. So
That too. Now, the other nurses who are within this meeting, they also remembered seeing Carolina at about 3 a.m. with this nurse. So they remember seeing this actual nurse. Now, according to witness reports, they saw this woman hanging around the pediatric center, quote unquote, but they all figured that she was a new hire. During a news conference, Chief Aaron Rosenthal of the Manhattan Division stated, quote, no one can actually document that woman was the woman who left the hospital. I have not seen a woman fitting that description leaving the hospital during this entire time, end quote. It was determined that the nurse obviously was fake and took Carolina.
okay, but I see a but.
But they did suspect one person. They did have a suspect that they thought was the suspect. 31-year-old Lucy Brockton fit the description and had a warrant for car theft, but police were able to determine that she actually had an alibi during this time. Joy and Carl would eventually split after the abduction. Joy fell into a deep depression, took anxiety medication. Carl, a sweet young man at the time, prior to his daughter's disappearance, would turn into a very short-tempered, pissed-off guy, as anybody else would.
Yeah.
After no sign of the nurse or Carolina, everything went cold. Everything.
Go ahead.
Until 2004. 1983 to 2004.
21 years.
21 years later, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Nettie Nance was pregnant and by fall was showing. The high school senior needed state assistance to help with her newborn child, but needed a birth certificate to do so, asking her mother, Ann Petway, for a copy. At the time, Ann seemed very annoyed by this request and told her to leave it alone. Now, before I go any further, how's this situation playing off in your mind?
Just so I can what is this gonna? She's gonna find out her whole life is just a lie. Then she's gonna find out she was abducted, right?
She will.
It's sad. It's just sad. I mean, doing podcasts and we do our research. Unfortunately, we read about this shit.
Yeah, and it happens.
We see it on TV
a lot.
Yeah, and they just turn my stomach, dude. I can't even. It's real. This is not a paranormal story. This isn't a see it if I see it then I'll believe it, or a super. No, this is something that actually happened. This is real. This is scarier than a ghost.
People are the ones doing this. They have a
ghost.
conscience. They have a mind. They have a heartbeat. They have blood pressure, blood pumping through their veins, and they're the ones who are doing it. And something like this can happen anywhere.
It happens every day. I'm sure it's just not documented. Hell,
and it's
in
not
other countries.
As you're just about to
Yeah.
say that, it's not just the USA. Now,
Go ahead.
Anne, the mother of Nidra, was an occasional quote unquote drug user, and at times would be extremely aggressive towards Nettie or Nidra. According to Nettie, Anne would beat Nettie with a shoe when she was high, just because. Throughout the years, Anne would look at pictures of her and her mother, and every time, even as a child, would see no resemblance. Nettie was a light-skinned girl. Anne was dark-skinned. They were African American, so if anybody's wondering, this is an African American family. Nettie was light-skinned, Anne was dark-skinned. While at the Bureau of Vital Statistics, Nettie provided the clerk with her birth certificate. She was able finally to get it from her mother after sneaking into her room to actually go and get it. The clerk, assuming Nettie was faking the name, called security on Nettie. Nettie left. She then came home and told her mother the whole situation. A few days after this whole situation, a few days later, Anne came crying and was very disoriented and told Nettie that she was not her biological mother, that Nettie was actually left on the steps back in 1987 of Anne's home, and that was the first time, according to Nettie, that she saw her mother cry for the first time. Now, granted, not her biological mother, but after 20 some odd years, that's your mom. You're seeing
That's
your
what you
mom.
recognize. Yeah.
You're seeing
Yeah.
your mom cry for the first time in 21 years. Holy shit. Then in 2005, this is now a year later, doing some digging to see who exactly Nettie was, see who she was as a person. She, much like Tanya Kack's story, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children site was used on Google. At this time, Nettie had already given birth to her daughter, Samani, who many people said that she looked identical to Nidra. Now, while on the website, Nettie found a face that matched her daughter. The article was titled 19-Day-Old Baby Vanished. Up and disappeared.
Okay.
The date was August 4th, 1987. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children also requested if Nettie had a birthmark, or not requested, but it had written in there.
Identified marks.
Yeah, if there was a birthmark on her right arm. And sure enough, she picked up her right arm. There was the birthmark, just like it was saying in the actual story itself. It was now 3 days after Christmas in 2010. That was in 2005. It's now 5 years later. She's now, what is that, 26 years old, 27 years old?
27, yeah. Yeah.
When Carolina would speak with her mother, Joy, and her father, Carol, after 23 years of being abducted and raised by another person. Can you imagine that?
No.
3 days after, not only seeing your mother, your real mother and father, but 3 days after Christmas. It's a Christmas miracle.
No. But, if you will, if you want to call it that. But no, I can't imagine that. I don't know what I would do after 20 years of knowing, thinking that you were just gone. A child of mine was just gone. And then popping up. I wouldn't know what to say or do. No clue. So anyway, I want to know what these parents did.
Well, they actually didn't do much other than welcome Nettie back into the family. Obviously,
They didn't talk about their emotional state, their experience.
Oh, no, of course they did.
Okay.
The parents, who are now grandparents to Nettie's daughter, will finally be reunited. And Ann Petway, she was charged with federal kidnapping and was sentenced to 20 years to life.
Oh, so she kidnapped her? She wasn't left on the doorstep like
no, she actually
said?
That was just a story to tell to play on Nidra's mind. She actually kidnapped.
Okay, but that wasn't the name of the nurse that suspected it, though.
She was the nurse. I was just about to
Oh,
get to that.
okay. Okay.
Come to find out, after being arrested, she confessed to being a nurse in that hospital in 1987 and abducted a child, and for 23 years raised that 20 some odd years later raised that child. Now with the mother and father, Joy and Carl, of course, they were absolutely 100% devastated. They were like, holy shit, what the, how, so many different questions. And obviously they're catching up and they're telling her, we never had any children after you.
Oh, no,
And
they didn't?
no, according to what I read. But people online, if I'm wrong, let me know.
Hell, let me know if he's right.
Yeah. So according to what I read, they know they didn't have any children after that. Carl may have had children, but after Nettie was abducted, they broke down. She was taking anxiety pills. She fell into a deep depression. Carl was a very sweet guy who then turned into a very ill-mannered person. I believe it even said he may have went to jail a couple of times after this situation.
Dude, you just lose all sense of anything. You don't care anymore. I can't even imagine. I really don't. Just losing direction like that. No, probably not even using the right words. I get speechless. I do.
I hear you. And I'm going to leave it on this last part. After Anne was sentenced to 20 years, Joy told Anne face to face while in court, she said, quote, I want you to suffer. I want you to do your time and have to think, just like I did for 23 years, about what you did to me, my boyfriend at the time, and her real family. End quote.
Yeah. How could she not like her?
But
And if
hey,
she was abusive, and she was abusive?
and she would beat her with a shoe. But hey, they ended up being found. So everything worked out fine.
Yeah, that worked out fine. Right.
But that was another very interesting cases. But go ahead.
True.
Say
I was
what.
gonna say I don't even know what I was. You're right. I'm glad everything ended up better for the both of them.
Me too.
But still, good stories.
Great stories. Don't worry. I won't have any downers next week. I have a couple of other different stories lined up that I want to talk about. I even went back on some of our old text messages, and I'm starting to pull up a couple of urban legends.
All right.
So the next one that we do,
Captain Underpants.
exactly. They are going to be some very good, very interesting urban legends, and I actually can't wait to talk about them because there are some interesting ones.
All right, let's do it.
So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for listening. Again, please check out our flow page. That's flow.page/BTWBJ. You'll find all of our stuff there. If you buy us a beer, we'll give you a shout out on this episode. Thank you. Drinking the Kool-Aid. Thank you. #history. So thank you very much. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody for watching. Can't wait to do it again. This will also be bi-weekly. So we got our schedules planned out. We have a couple of Chub Talks coming out soon. Stay tuned, ladies and genitals, and we will talk to you next time.
Keep them hanging.
Hanging low and loose. Keep them boners high and tight, though, brother.
If you're still lucky to do that.
Yeah, it's true. If you're 55 and older, you may need a little blue pill.
Nope.
Thank you, everybody. Love you. Peace.
Good night.